Hey everyone, it's me, Slouchy. It's been a hot minute, been a few months since the last upload on this main channel. Before we get into the actual list, I wanted to point out a few things with you guys. First of all, the list is not a number 10, it's a number 9, as you can tell in the title and the thumbnail. The number 10 was originally going to be Ocarina of Time, but because of when I started editing and producing this video, I'll very much admit it, I had a hard time scripting it, first of all, and I didn't know how to do this video, and all in all, I just decided to just do number 9 through 1 because that was just better personally for me. And as later down the line, time was starting to just lose, and I was on a time crunch basically, and so decided to scrap number 10. But Ocarina of Time is a great game. Yo, you should go play it. The other thing is some of these are going to be narrated shorter or longer, just because of the fact that, again, it's my first time scripting a big thing like this, but I really tried my best to put as much thought into it as I could and put much energy in narrating it as I could. Some are going to be 5 minutes and some are going to be 3 minutes long. And lastly, number 3, 2, and 1 are going to have little extended intros to them to kind of make it a little bit more cinematic, while as number 9 through 4 is going to be a little shorter, just to make it as like here are the big ones, you know what I mean? So that's it. Enjoy the rest of the video. I'll see you on the other side at the end. Number 9. Back when I was still active on Discord and still had virtual friends to talk to, my friend Grace recommended Pocket Mirror and Mario the Music Box. I first played the Music Box one night and thoroughly enjoyed it for how weirdly good it was. It was like playing some indie meme video game. Some months later though, I almost forgot about Pocket Mirror and realized I still hadn't played it. I managed to find it and download it for a new Let's Play series back in early 2019. All I knew about Pocket Mirror was that it was an anime-esque horror game. I totally enjoy watching anime, so why not? But as I continued through the first Eggliot section, it started to grow on me, even if it didn't really show through my awkward personality in my Let's Play. When I look back on it personally and without the critique mindset I had when making the So I Finished video, I started to realize how much it impacted me, eventually leading up to this video and finally deciding to put it as one of my favorite games. The first aspect that sticks out when remembering Pocket Mirror is how unique of a horror game it is. The anime-inspired look for the character designs really impressed me for how small of an indie game this was. For some of the RPG Maker games I've seen already on YouTube, Pocket Mirror did more than just a JPEG image of a randomly drawn anime character and made instead a full render of each girl with some added voice sounds from time to time. I know Team Gris Gris's Corpse Party Blood cover did that, but those are kind of just derpy looking to me. It had its own soundtrack which sounded very nice and appropriate to certain scenes, especially when it got extra dark and disturbing. Gameplay was simple and fun. Being an RPG Maker game, I didn't really expect anything more than what I played. The mystery of the story was definitely the one thing that kept me coming back and being interested in the game. And at that time, the only mystery games I played were Nancy Drew the Final Scene and Message in a Haunted Mansion. So it was fun to play a game like this again. When I look on YouTube for gameplay or music on Pocket Mirror, I see people collectively agree how sad it is that it's still not well known to people. The biggest amount of views I've seen for something about Pocket Mirror is the OST that was uploaded by one of the composers and arrangers of the music, getting 210k views. Everything else is way lower than that. With all this being said, Pocket Mirror is a criminally underrated game that definitely deserves some more attention, especially to those who like anime or mystery horror, or both. I'll leave a link for a download in the description if you're interested. Good luck on Little Goody Two Shoes as your next project, Team Master Shift. Number 8. This one may be the most surprising entry for this list because of how Dark Souls 2 differs from the other two in the trilogy. The first playthrough is easier than usual and the level design is pretty weak, but what draws me to Dark Souls 2 more than Dark Souls 1 and 3 is it was my first video game to be constantly frustrated at, my first Dark Souls game ever that I played, and for all of that, it's just simply nostalgic. I can't really remember why I wanted my mom to buy it for me. Maybe the box art looked good, or the title sounded cool, but I know that no other outside voice was drawing me to it. That first time watching the open cutscene and not knowing what the hell was going on, and fighting the giant ogre, this was going to be something a lot different than what I was used to. Really, everything that I encountered in Dark Souls 2 was new for me. Every single enemy would outnumber me, hitting me non-stop with attacks that drain a quarter of my health, not given the simple courtesy of pausing the game when going through my inventory. Throughout my whole journey, I really had no clue what I was doing other than go to this bonfire, then the next, which would finally lead me to accessing Draenei Castle where the final boss was. Just fight, heal, and plan out different strategies to avoid any enemies that I can in the area. I actually quickly learned how to take care of myself to not throw another hissy fit when saying "you died" for the 15th time in Doors of Pharaohs, or Dragon Aerie, or anywhere else. Dark Souls 2 made me realize that I really like to take up on a challenge in a video game, and test my mental and emotional skills. It encouraged me to dive deeper into the rest of the trilogy, and with other Souls-like games like Code Vein or Sekiro. I didn't really need to know what I was doing story-wise. I found a new kind of fun with the game constantly wanting to kick my ass and see if I would give up, building me up to try and kill the Rat King just one more time, finish all B and C sides of Celeste and be proud to see that death count, try out Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal to hone my weapon reflexes, and finally becoming a senior detective in a Nancy Drew game. So, thank you Dark Souls 2 for kicking my ass, growing me up to be the bigger gamer, and look at the very face of constant death and struggle, and finally say, "Fuck you!" Number 7. Another game from a trilogy series. Ever since the first release of Batman Arkham Asylum for the Xbox 360 and PS3 in 2009, people really praised it for how it made you feel like Batman. Being able to do constant counterattacks, taking on groups of criminals, as well as being the detective, so that Batman could be shown in his entirety, starting with Arkham Asylum and all the way to Arkham Knight. Unfortunately, I wasn't on this hype train until I got my Xbox 360 in 2012, and later bought Arkham City, which released only a year before. Getting into the story was a bit weird since it left off on events that happened in Arkham Asylum, but I was so engaged in the combat and world, I really did not care. Arkham City was one of those games for me that had a demo, which I played at least 10 times to satiate my dying want to have the full experience. And once I got it, I would get into an obsession with it. The characters that were introduced with the voice actors were flawless. The dark and corrupted world of Arkham City fit too well with Batman and his villains. The combat not only made me feel badass with how fast and strong I was becoming, it made me feel badass for how smart and engaging I was whenever there would be sneaking sections or looking where to dodge and who to hit next to start a huge combo when I was outnumbered. And it was actually the first video game to get me to collect everything in the world. Riddler trophies, Riddler secrets, Joker balloons, concept art, character trophies, suit and weapon upgrades, and New Game Plus. All of this, including the DLC content, since I did get the Game of the Year edition. Speaking of it being a Game of the Year edition, the DLC content also had something called challenge maps, which featured not only Batman, but 3 characters: Catwoman, Robin, and Nightwing. This was the first time I ever saw or heard of Nightwing, and the challenge maps were a perfect time to get me acquainted with him. With how silent and snarky he looked, along with his pair of Eskrima sticks, he quickly became my all-time favorite superhero. Then I found out he actually talks and you can still play him in Arkham Knight. So I even got more excited for that game. Like Dark Souls 2, Batman Arkham City was a game that introduced me to a handful of different things in the gaming world. It also helped me to understand why my sister Tawny enjoyed Batman so much when I was a kid. If you like DC but haven't tried playing the Arkham series, please do. It seems like video games are the one thing that DC can be good at on a regular basis. Number 6. One of the very few quirky and good 3D platform Sonic games that got released after Sonic Heroes. This does depend on which console you played it on though, because if you played the Wii version, you get 480p low polygon looking graphics, dithering, less frame rate, Nancy Drew-esque hub world exploration. For the other consoles, you get high polygon 720p looking graphics, faster Sonic, open world-esque town exploration, and more frame rate. So as you can see, the Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS3, and PS4 versions are pretty superior than the peasant Wii version. I first played it on the Wii though, and a few years later on my 360, and remember how surprised and also confused I was. Just because of the differences of town exploration and level design, I already got myself more hooked with the Xbox 360 version than I did with the Wii version. Now with a bit of the technical stuff spoken for and out of the way, let me talk about the actual meat of what I enjoyed about this game. So first off, the story goes that Sonic was fighting Eggman in space, and Eggman eventually led him to a machine and got trapped, suffering the loss of the Chaos Emerald's power and turning Sonic into a werehog of all things. This also awakens an entity called Dark Gaia and fractures the planet. Sonic is sent back to the planet and discovers that he is his usual blue hedgehog self in the day and turns into the new werehog form at night. Sonic also later discovers he ate the Gum Gum fruit while eating ice cream and becomes Monkey D. Luffy. Having these stretchy arms, the game turns into a beat-em-up and plays as a completely different but slower Sonic. This is where the game is a hit or miss with people. Personally, I didn't grow up with the classic Sonic games from the 90s, so I didn't see the Werehog Knight levels as abnormal. As a kid, I thought, whatever, it's a video game, they're usually wacky and like this, right, Mom? I didn't really have a good idea of what the Sonic franchise was either. Whether it be day or night stages, I didn't and still don't have one gameplay style I love more than the other. For the Werehog Knight stages, I could think of ways to make different combos and push my way through. And with the Hedgehog Day stages, I could go at Mach speed and plow my way through. Each stage urged me to get a high score and get an S rank. With liking both gameplay styles and world environments, I was more than happy to take the challenge. Keep in mind, this was my second playthrough of Sonic Unleashed, being on the Xbox 360. Sonic Unleashed had that magic touch, just like Batman Arkham City, to have me collect everything in the game and be considered a completionist a little bit. Getting that S rank is a whole different story. As Sonic, you didn't just have to be fast, you had to take every little shortcut, every little drift pattern, boost timing, slight maneuver to get that shiny diamond letter. As a Werehog, you had to be quick, but get long combo streaks and lots of rings as much as possible. Because of the two different gameplay styles, I didn't grow bored at all. I was always excited to run right to my Wii or Xbox 360 over and over to play. Sonic Unleashed was ultimately the game to teach me how to be a speedrunner and have a passion for it. Constantly thinking of different ways to move faster and what sections to skip to save time. It also had me go out of my way to look up the soundtrack and fully experience the music, and not just some good game jingles in the background. I noticed the way the music would sound quick in day stages with some mystery and mellowness in the night stages, all while adding a certain musical atmosphere and tone with which continent Sonic is in. Oh yeah, and jazz.
I sure hope there are no jazz bands waiting around here.
I also saw YouTube comments saying that night stage music is a perfect selection of a chill-hop-esque music, which in my opinion is the best way you could describe that selection. But I can't go on without saying the one song that always stuck with me. Endless Possibility, the end credit song. I swear to God, this has to be one of my top 5 songs from video games because of how hard it hits every time. The cheesy lyrics talking about stepping out and believing in myself with the memories of playing Sonic Unleashed for the first time 2 times in a row. In a sense, the one guitar strumming at the beginning and at the end song being the cherry on top of it all. And how this song helped me to be encouraged when I was in a dark place in my life. Sonic Unleashed means a lot to me for that, and it's a serious shame that it's still not on PC. Although Sega did announce this year that they want to start porting more games based off of Persona 4's success on PC, so there's finally hope. Number 5. Really, what would be the survival horror genre be like without Resident Evil? After getting evicted in 2010 because of the mortgage inflation, my family and I moved into an apartment complex in Encino. All in all, the experience being there was one of the worst times of my life, but that's another story for another day. One of the few things that kept me occupied and still happy in life was the PlayStation 2 that the landlord let us use. Having a small collection of 3 games, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, SOCOM 2 US Navy SEALs, and Resident Evil 4. Because of the survival horror aspect of RE4 being at the first time for me in gaming, it drew me in the most and kept me always coming back rather than the other 2 games mentioned. I was used to GameCube and Wii games like Mario, Pac-Man, Wii Fit, and Wii Fit Plus. My only horror or scary experience in games were Metroid Prime 3 Corruption and Luigi's Mansion. Nothing would have prepared me for this. This really didn't scare me away from it though. Resident Evil 4 is more than just trying to be scary. There's puzzles, anxiety-driven boss fights, inventory managing. This entry is the sweet spot of balancing its original horror roots from the first game and being over the top and cheeky, before falling away to being just pure action as time went on. Having this balance is probably one of the main reasons I came back to it and continued my playthrough, giving plenty of breaks to calm down a little and just have fun, which really only increased the scare factor in its horror segments. Like when you arrive at the island and fight hordes of Ganados with electric sticks, miniguns, and swords, and then enter a door leading you to or when you sit on Salazar's throne, then go underground and fight this abomination. Like the game is going, ha, gotcha, I'm still a horror game. I believe Resident Evil 4 personally helped me out with how I view gore and violence and step out of my childlike comfort zone. Take some baby steps towards seeing the real world in a way. The game is definitely grotesque, but I wouldn't say it bothered me. Gore actually intrigued me, and in a way fascinated me, to the point where I looked up Flash games that led me to Skull Kid, Divine Intervention, and Torture Chamber 1 and 2. Don't worry, it's not like I have imaginations killing someone and becoming a psychopath. It's more like, a head can detach off the body pretty easy, so that's what happens to skin if it's heated up too much for a long period of time. This didn't happen for long since I grew out of doing that shortly after and getting caught by my mom and sister. When a year had passed by and me and my family moved back into a good house that didn't have a bunch of cockroaches, I had to say goodbye to that PS2, along with SmackDown vs. Raw, SOCOM, and RE4. It was almost like leaving a good friend. It wasn't until 7 years later in 2018 that I got Resident Evil 4 on my Xbox 360 and had a reunion. Replay it, finally go through the professional mode, unlock skins and weapons, and do all that other crap I still didn't do. For all the fun, goofiness, and horror that this game brought, glad it was a game like Resident Evil 4. And fun fact, this used to be my #1 game, and the first game I ever speedrun, clocking it at 2 hours 49 minutes. Also, if any of you have a link to a Ronald McDonald ped mod, Could you link me one? I've been wanting to have that since I first played this game. It's really fun. I'll leave a link down to like the video that I saw. It's like Ronald McDonald is shooting shooting the guns like the Chicago typewriter, and he's like I think he has a cowboy hat on at first. I don't know, but it's like it's so weird because it's so I'll stop. Number 4. Grand Theft Auto 5 was like a friend in a way that Resident Evil 4 was. It was there in a very rocky time in my life, and looking back on that, I believe there was no other better time for me to play it. I first started playing Grand Theft Auto 4 to get familiar with the series, and always saw people modding so much with the game. Then GTA 5 came out and had to get my hands on that one. Then about a year later, I got hit by a car and sent to the hospital while trying to go to school. My brother-in-law, Colin, decided to give me compensation and got me Grand Theft Auto 5 for my Xbox 360. I still remember looking at him and saying, seriously, is this a dream? Guys, the feeling of wanting a new video game and waiting a year or two to finally get it, and then play it night and day as much as you can before doing schoolwork, chores, or anything else, that feeling is so grand. The satisfaction and patience you get from those situations is so much. I didn't care that I got my right hand broken. I had GTA 5 waiting for me on that Xbox, and if I had to shoot guns, drive, and fly vehicles, so be it, damn it. From the get-go, I was highly impressed by how much better Grand Theft Auto 5 played and looked, but compared to Grand Theft Auto 4. Mind you, both of them being on the same Xbox 360 I was using. You not only had one character to play as, but 3. And instead of your cousin calling you every 20 minutes to see if you want to go bowling or shoot darts, you have 2 mentally unstable best friends and a black guy who gets his hair cut roasted by his best friend.
Oh, nigga, don't hate me because I'm beautiful, nigga. Maybe if you got rid of that old yee-yee ass haircut you got, you get some bitches on your dick.
You can customize your car, you have more melee weapons and guns, characters have special abilities, you can golf, bowl, race, throw darts, tow cars, get a haircut, you name it. GTA 5's got it. Los Santos has a bigger and more mountainous terrain than Liberty City, not to mention more mods. I know I'll get heat for saying this, but Grand Theft Auto 5 is just better in every way than Grand Theft Auto 4. But Grand Theft Auto 4 was definitely still a load of fun for me, and I still recommend that. It's sad to say that it's been 8 years since the initial release of Grand Theft Auto 5, and people are still spreading rumors and no actual news about Rockstar making Grand Theft Auto 6. Nothing but GTA Online expansions. Now I finally know how people waiting for Half-Life 3 feel. Every time the Rockstar logo shows on a trailer, my hopes rise in a second. Maybe this time. Then my hopes fall just as quick after seeing that big red online. Something in me always enjoys going into Los Santos and just start wrecking everything and causing some kind of mayhem. But most of the time, I just want to drive legally and go tow some cars to get some spare cash, even if I put in the max money Game Shark code. It's like I created my own after story for Franklin, Trevor, and Michael. 2 years ago, I got a Grand Theft Auto 5 remix song from Welcome to the 80s. It was Sleepwalking by the Chain Gang. I commented on that video saying how I realized that I was a miserable person when I first played that game, and how happy I am today. Even if the game was very grotesque, it served as a time capsule for me. It's a bittersweet feeling and almost makes me cry by how nostalgic the song and video game is. Seeing all those relatable replies was just simply kind and beautiful. I don't care if it was a bad decision playing Grand Theft Auto 5 when I was 14. I turned out just fine, and experienced another breathtaking video game I'm sure to replay. Thank you, Colin. I love you, brother.
You two motherfuckers terrify me of that middle age. I'm good.
You're right to be afraid, Franklin.
Yeah.
Be very afraid, Franklin.
Yeah, but seriously, I'm the lucky one though. If you have a child that's like 14 or younger, don't let them play these great games. Just don't. Just don't. Number 3. Why do people insist on creating things that will inevitably be destroyed? Why do people cling to life, knowing that they must someday die, knowing that none of it will have meant anything once they do? This is a quote from one of the most chaotic and greatest villains in video game history, Kefka Palazzo from Final Fantasy VI. Back when Final Fantasy VII Remake was teased in 2015, everybody was freaking out in excitement, while I didn't even know what Final Fantasy was, let alone the 7th installment. I enjoyed fantasy, so I decided to check it out, which led me to not only knowing Final Fantasy VII, but other great installments like Final Fantasy VI. Once I heard these games had turn-based battle systems, that was the nail in the coffin. I fired up SNES 9X and saw the opening. Caught off guard by the intimidating music and beautiful artwork for the narration landscape and sprites, I could tell I was going to enjoy this. The SNES games that I was aware of beforehand were Super Mario World, Super Metroid, A Link to the Past, and Donkey Kong Country. And even after getting used to seeing highly detailed games for current-gen consoles, Final Fantasy VI is still just as impressive as it was back in 1994 for being a Super Nintendo game. Compared to the others showing side-scrolling levels, a top-down world, one clear, straight-to-the-point goal, and 3 to 5 hour gameplay, Final Fantasy VI was able to shot 2 expansive and in-depth worlds, 14 distinct characters with their own relationships to each other, magic and attack building with custom parties, 30 to 40 hour gameplay, and a psychotic jester who becomes God as the villain. Oh yeah, and one of the greatest soundtracks I have ever heard. Since this was the time before video game voice acting, all you hear is the music and sound effects. First, When You're in the Cold Mines of Narsh, my favorite song. The deep and maze-like Serpent Trench. The dark and mysterious Phantom Forest. Dreadful, broken World of Ruin. Nobuo Uematsu truly did impressive work in expressing a musical character to this world with the hardware limitations at the time for the Super Nintendo. There's also character themes, battle themes, and of course the victory fanfare we all love. I can't stress enough how well Final Fantasy VI is able to blend every element of battling, music, characters, and story, as well as elements of suicide, mortality, loss, and love, while throwing in goofy sprite animations and character interactions. When I first met Kefka, I actually had some anxiety in me when approaching him for battle. Yeah, thank you Nobuo Uematsu for making Dancing Mad to escalate that anxiety. And when I was in the World of Ruin, I had to look up a walkthrough constantly because I was so used to linearity and enemies from World of Balance. Another thing I haven't done since I was a kid. Final Fantasy VI actually made me feel like a kid again. In a way, I highly respect Final Fantasy VII for the reasons of introducing me to the franchise, the fanbase, and Final Fantasy VI. I understand why people love Final Fantasy VII and why it became influential after it was released. But because of this, I think number 6 is a little swept under the rug. Something always draws me to Final Fantasy VI way more. Maybe it's the awesome sprites and beautiful 16-bit music, or the original unique Final Fantasy character concept art, compared to the anime character art nowadays. Best way to describe my emotions to this game is like squeezing a baby's cheeks and saying, "God, you're so cute." Final Fantasy VI is not only my third favorite game, but my first and favorite Final Fantasy title, and my favorite gaming franchise. Square Enix, when you have the time, please remake this entry. Number 2.
I'm willing to take full responsibility for the horrible events of the last 24 hours, but you must understand. Our interest in their world was purely for the betterment of mankind. Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
Rip and tear until it is done. That's all you need to know. Originally as a DOS game in 1993, and spawning many sequels and expansions, Doom became one of the most influential and iconic shooters. As video games started to become more popularized, they usually would be games related to sports. Take Pong or Space Race for example, while games like Super Mario and Pac-Man setting the stage for fictional childlike video games. Then Doom comes in, all balls to the walls, bleeding skulls, mushed bodies, and demons everywhere. Cut the child's play, Jimmy, you're gonna become a man now. Doom guy shot Mario to death, there's no going back. As the years went by, the franchise started to get a little stale and not much going for it. Doom 2016 decided to change that, going back to its roots and bringing back the badass Space Marine, demonic horde gunplay, and cranking that up tenfold, with Mick Gordon's musical genius for the metal cherry on top. Like Final Fantasy, I didn't have any knowledge about the Doom franchise until watching Markiplier's playthrough when Doom 2016 first came out. And not until 2019, I finally bought it for my PC and grew to love it. It was reliving the moment of playing Resident Evil 4 as a kid, but of course more extreme. Not even when you're playing through the first mission, but in the main menu. Doom lets you know what's about to happen. It doesn't hesitate to give you your plasma pistol and Praetor suit 40 seconds in to start kicking ass. Starting off the player quickly like that really hasn't been in most other video games since the early arcade days, like I mentioned before. Ever since the 90s, video games took a more story-rich, theater presentation direction. Doom 2016 not only goes back to its own roots, but video games as a whole. My utmost respect id Software for taking that approach, giving us a breath of forgotten fresh air. Because of the soundtrack and gameplay, Doom helped me and influenced me a lot personally. So much so, I dare say it ties with my #1 favorite game. The gameplay got me more comfortable with the FPS genre, compared to Call of Duty tainting it for me from making the genre look so akin to each one. Something about point and shoot gun, look he's dead now, cool right? Doom comes in, yo shoot the plasma cannon, jump on top of the demon, rip his eye out, use the arm as a bat. Finally, something interesting. Then there's the music, which helped a lot in terms of getting pumped up and fighting my own demons. What I'm trying to say is Doom 2016 helped me spiritually. I can't imagine my life without a game such as this. Not only playing it in 2019, but staying up late at night in the summer of 2016 is one of the defining things that made that year very special to me. Just to lay it out, Doom Eternal is certainly a great predecessor with how it improved the game mechanics and environments, but Doom 2016 feels more like a Doom game, just by how it presents itself at the starting mission and lays out the environments. Story is only there to fill the story gap, but choosing to not be important. Doom Eternal, on the other hand, being the opposite. Hey, at least the story is actually good though. I ain't necessarily complaining about anything. I sincerely hope id Software continues the Doom franchise in sticking with what they've done so far. Honest to God, the Doom Slayer action figure is one of the best purchases I have ever made so far. Before I gush and praise on my top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Okay, you're not as much of a head case as I thought. I'm friend zoning the crap out of you, okay?
No, don't be like that. We can find a way out of this. Bunch of idiot Russians.
I will kill every one of them.
No, that's exactly what you won't do. We don't have time for revenge. We can't afford it.
All caps. You not buy, then you die.
If you order now, I'll throw in a second beating, absolutely free.
Number 1.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
What can I say that no one else has already said about Skyrim? This game has to be one of the absolute best RPGs ever made, if not the best. Right next to Final Fantasy VI and VII, The Witcher 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Persona. Skyrim not only got big when it first came out, it also had some resurgence with its meme formats and the modding community that's still growing with nearly 100 mods every week. As a kid, when playing video games, I would imagine character scenarios and make my own story on top of the actual story of the game. And Skyrim was the first game that helped me realize that imagination. I didn't have to always be the Dovahkiin, Dragonborn, the savior of Tamriel. I could really just be a traveler, a man with a wife and kids who built his house from scratch. Or perhaps a cloaked figure who'd do anything good or evil for some money with his trusted companion. Whatever I wanted to be, Skyrim gladly helped me. I was first exposed to it by watching my sister Tawny play it on her boyfriend's Xbox 360 and notice how open its world was. I believe this was also when I first discovered fantasy and fantasy games. My fascination grew me to, I will lose an arm and a leg if it means I can play this whenever I want. I can't even remember the last time I had a drive like that for a game other than Skyrim. I will never forget the moment I saw my sister Tawny watch me open my new Xbox 360 and a copy of Skyrim for Christmas. Diving right in and getting lost in the world of Tamriel, the tundra of Skyrim, the underground Dwemer ruins, the bustling cities of Whiterun, Winterhold, and Markarth. Skyrim was the game that made the sandbox genre my favorite, and that video games are truly a work of art, just like a Van Gogh painting. Skyrim settles that argument for me. Every day was truly a new adventure, a new story to be told of the Dovahkiin. Because Skyrim is a sandbox video game, I don't think the developers intended it to be a wake up, dragons are resurrecting, you're the Dragonborn, go kill Alduin, awesome, you killed Alduin, now you can explore. It seems to me the side quests and DLC storylines were there as a while on the way kind of thing. It almost seems that everything else but the Alduin Dovahkiin storyline was the game. What do you, the player, want to do? Me? Find out the best way to become an invincible god with the Fortify Restoration Potion glitch, and also discovering the Ogma Infinium book glitch that lets you max out your skill trees. Oh, and do I even need to tell you something about the soundtrack? Just go listen to it. It is my #1 favorite game soundtrack. As of today, I have a good enough PC to mod the hell out of Skyrim and replay it as much as I want. But because of playing it daily when I was 12, it seems like I did everything that I could. I lived a fictional life in a fictional world. I killed Alduin. I discovered every area. I did every side quest. I helped the Stormcloaks. I had a wife and kids in a big house. I really miss that save file, and I will miss my Xbox 360 now that I pass it on to my nephews. Skyrim was the only game that my sisters and I connected with and realized how remarkable it was. This is the one game I seriously wish I could forget about to really live again. Many people can agree with me on the fact that Skyrim was like a second home. It was more than just an escape to our real home. Tawny, I hope you're watching this right now because I want to say thank you for the simple act of getting me that console with this game. And as you can tell, it meant so much more to me than any other game to this day. When writing this entry, I was listening to Skyrim music, and when I had you in my head about that Christmas, I started to cry a lot. This truly is my favorite game. Who knows when I'll have an experience like this again. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. This took a long time to make. At first, I think when I first originally got the idea to make this top 10 or top 9 video, originally top 10, it was, I think, back in probably October or something like that. I started making the thumbnail to get an idea. The list got moved around a lot. And I mean a lot. The rough draft from day one was just all over the place. I didn't know what I was going to do with the script, if I should script, if I should do a camera, if I should do like a montage, like I just did with the entries. Like Pocket Mirror was like number 10, I think, or number 9, and then Skyrim was number 4. And then it got switched to number 2 and 3. Grand Theft Auto 5 was number 3, and then it got switched to 4, and then Final Fantasy 6 was number 6. And speaking of Final Fantasy 6, I finished that game just before making this entire video. So I went through an entire game and then put it on this video. This is the biggest video project I have ever done. Just the fact, because I had to complete an entire game from start to finish just for this. So that was insane. I had my doubts because first I wanted to do the deadline on the last week of November, and then it was December, and then now here we are at the last week of January. So yeah, and January was definitely the month where I was like, okay, I gotta get my ass in gear and actually finish this thing, because now I know how to script this, and I know what I want to do. I want to do a montage, and so yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to do. So I'm so glad I finally got it done, and for that, I really hope you appreciated this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. About the upload schedule with the main channel, it's been a while. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it was a long time since I made the Doom Eternal Doom 2016 soundtrack video. I think that was the last one, which was like back like 5 or 6 months ago, I think. But I want to say, don't worry, I have like 5 videos in the YouTube back burner, I think you call it, quote unquote a back burner. It's in my mind. I'm working on those videos. There's like 5 of them. One's like for Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly. The next one from after this one will be a Crush waifu tier video, which that's going to be a lot of fun. Crush, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it was one of the honorable mentions. There was that Mio girl that was like her, you know, her so yeah, it's gonna be about that video, that game. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited for it, and I'm wanting to do maybe a cooking video, but I definitely want to do like a singing video. I'm kind of all over the place. I just have ideas bouncing around in my head. So yeah, it will not be another 5 months until the next video. Do not worry. I am actually going to do stuff with the main channel. So yeah, roll the credits. And yet again, thank you so much for watching this video. Bye bye.